All right, welcome back, everybody. This is the Deck Doc here with another Commander Case Files. Today, we actually have kind of a special video. It is a request from someone who watched one of my other case file videos, and they wanted me to build a deck around this Final Fantasy commander. It is Seifer, I think it's Seifer Almasy, and it is 3 and a red for a legendary human knight. I'm going to go ahead and read the abilities. It says, whenever a creature you control attacks alone, it gains double strike until end of turn. And he has another ability, and it says Fire Cross. Whenever Seifer deals combat damage to a player, you may cast target instant or sorcery card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard without paying its mana cost. If this spell would be put into your graveyard, exile it instead. So, right off the bat, a lot of ideas, but you really want to try and activate his second ability as many times as you can. And fortunately, his first ability lets us do that pretty easily. This deck will be focusing on Seifer, attacking alone, giving him double strike. We'll add some evasion in there so that he's able to hit when he hits. It will happen 2 times. We get 2 triggers of Fire Cross, and we'll just start slinging together spells. There are quite a few different routes that you can take when building a deck like this, and I don't want to say unfortunately, but I think I ended up mixing a lot of them together, which I know you're usually not supposed to do, but in this deck, it really felt like it was easy to do. And the themes or the plans I put together were number one, Spellslinger, which makes sense because you're able to cast at least 2 spells a turn just based off of Seifer's ability. The other one was Burn, which once we go over the deck will make a lot of sense why I chose Burn. And then number 3 is Voltron. The Voltron is a secondary game plan, and it really just goes to support the first and the second. So I guess it's not secondary; it's tertiary game plan would be to support the first and the second. But let's go over what we've got. You will notice I only have 13 creatures in this deck. Much like the Fandaniel deck that I built earlier, I really don't think this is going to rely on other creatures to get the job done. It is going to be reliant heavily on Seifer. So all of these creatures, I would say 90% of them are to deal with burn. So first one, Caldera Pyramol. I think this new dragon from Dragonstorm is such a great card in this deck. It is 5 mana for dragon with flying. It says whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, put a +1 counter on this creature. Then this creature deals damage equal to its power to target opponent. Game Nights did a comparison on this card versus Gutter Snipe, which I also have in this deck, on how long it would take for this Pyramol to outvalue the Gutter Snipe. And it wasn't until I want to say a little bit later, 5 or 6 spells down the line, that the Pyre finally took over. But when it did, it was exponential because Gutter Snipe's only doing a max of 6, and Pyre can get to 6 and above really easily. So this is going to let us deal a lot of damage, and it's only to target opponent. If we were to hit with Seifer and cast 2 instants of sorceries, just right off the bat, that makes this a 4/4, and it'll do 4 damage to an opponent. And then on the second cast, it'll be a 5/5 and deal another 5. So just off the first cast or first combat of Seifer alone, this has the potential to do 9. And then it would be 6 and 7, which is 13. And that's only if we're casting 2 spells a turn. I play tested this deck pretty extensively, and it was not uncommon for me to be chaining together 4, 5, 6 spells in a single turn, meaning that this Pyramok could do a lot of work. This Coruscation Mage from Bloomburrow has Offspring, and I thought this is essentially part of the win con. These that when you cast a non-creature spell, not just instant or sorcery, so our artifacts and enchantments also count, it'll deal 1 damage to each opponent. Plus, it gives us Offspring, so if we do have the mana to pay for it, we can actually do 2 damage to each opponent. Electrostatic Field, a great defender, 0/4, tough to block through, or to hit through, and it also has whenever we cast instant or sorcery, it does 1. I think Goblin Champion is a fantastic card. So it's 1 for 0/1 that says Exalted. Whenever a creature you control attacks alone, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn. So Seifer, someone will have to correct me, but on double strike, you get 2 attack triggers. And so this is going to attack, get the +1/+1, and it'll attack again and get another +1/+1. So this Goblin Champion is always going to give Seifer, he'll become a 4/5 first strike and then a 5/6 double strike, essentially, which is really difficult to block. Gutter Snipe for slinging damage. This Iron Crag Pyromancer, I think, was a great addition. There were other kind of more burn cards I could put in here. But I thought this was really cool because it's based off how many cards you draw each turn. And when we get to the instants and sorceries, you'll realize why you will be triggering this a lot. And 3 damage is nothing to scoff at. Kedis goes crazy in this deck because it says whenever a commander creature you control deals combat damage to an opponent, it deals that much damage to each other opponent. When we are hitting with Seifer, even if it's just without pumping him at all, and he's just a 3/4 hits twice, that's 6 damage. 6 damage to one opponent means it deals it to all three, so that's 18 damage you're potentially doing, which is just wild. And with some of the other effects in here, it can be a lot more than just that. Because Flame Breather, same thing. Professional Face Breaker, we get 2 tokens if we are able to hit with Seifer, and that's just more mana generation. Silent Arbiter, no more than one creature can attack each combat. That's exactly what Seifer wants to do, and then no more than one creature can block each combat. So it's normally kind of a stacks piece, but for us, it really helps us to protect our board because we like I said, we only have 14 total creatures in this deck, so we don't have a lot of blockers. This is a very fast and aggro deck, as you would imagine a mono red deck being. So we want to try and prevent as much damage as we can. Stormkiln Artist is probably one of the best cards in the deck whenever you cast or copy. That's the crazy part. Or copy, create a treasure token. And so a lot of these cheap spells we're casting for 2 or 3 mana, they will essentially be 1 or 2 mana because you'll get a treasure token and it'll replace itself. Last 2 creatures, summon GF Cerberus. I'm still debating whether I like this one. It seems really good, but when I've been playtesting it, I just would have rather cast other spells that I had in my hand. And then Urabrask, I think, is really easy to flip. Again, when you cast instant or sorcery, it deals 1 damage to each or to target opponent, but we also get to add 1 red mana, so that makes it easier for us to chain spells together. And then you can pay 1 to exile him, return him to the battlefield. But we can only do it if we cast 3 or more instants or sorceries, which if we hit with Seifer twice, we cast 2. We are 66% of the way there. All we need to do is cast 1 more and we can flip them. And it flips into something pretty crazy. The Great Work, when it becomes Chapter 1, it deals 3 damage to target opponent and each creature they control is a one-sided board wipe. Chapter 2, 3 treasure tokens. Chapter 3 essentially lets us play instants or sorceries from our graveyard, and then it goes back to the Urabrask after that. So, really great card. Most of this deck, you can see instants and sorceries will make up 35 cards. That is a ton of cards are going to be around instants and sorceries, and a lot of them are built on replacing itself. And so I'll go through a few examples. Cathartic Reunion, sorcery is an additional cost to cast this spell, discard 2 cards, and then we draw 3. What this deck has really been based around is pitching a bunch of the instants and sorceries in our hand because all not all, but a lot of them are 1 to 3 mana. And so if we put them in our graveyard, that is essentially like a second hand for us because on Seifer's ability to, when he deals combat damage to opponent, we'll be able to cast those. And so, I mean, sometimes it feels bad to um, discard something like Harry's Wrath or a removal spell like Suplex, but you just have to realize that this is essentially just another way you can cast it is through Seifer. So I have a ton of those cards in there. Trample is actually really great as well, and it replaces itself because you get to draw a card. Um, Seize the Spoils, gets a treasure token while you do it. This gets a instant or sorcery back into your hand and adds a mana. A lot of these cards, Tormenting Voice, and a lot of them do it at instant speed, I have found as well. Big Score lets you do that. Um, Demand Answers lets you do that. I think my favorite card in this deck is actually Firestorm. So it's only 1 red and it's an instant. It says choose and discard X cards. Firestorm deals X damage to each of X target creatures and or players. So if you have a full grip of cards, let's say 5 cards in hand, what you do is you cast Firestorm for 1, discard all 5. You get to deal 5 damage to 5 targets, so 25 total damage. That's crazy. And you will likely discard mainly instants and sorceries. And so what you could do is you hit all 3 opponents, it's 15 damage, and then you pick on one opponent and blow up both of their creatures. And so now you get a free attack with Seifer. When Seifer hits twice, you get to cast both of those instants or sorceries you just discarded. Like, Seifer is nuts. I kind of built this just, yeah, whatever someone asked me to. But as I was getting into the playtesting, he actually does a lot of work. And you can't, I mean, I know mana value 3 doesn't seem that crazy, but once you get essentially upwards of 6 free mana a turn, you will realize just how busted this commander is. lots of things that let us either remove or punch through with Monstrous Rage. If you play Standard, you know this card has terrorized it. Um, but a lot of things to help us get damage through, a lot of removal, and then a lot of filtering through cards. Again, Thrill of Possibility, discard a card, discard an instant, discard a Siege Smash, discard a Sazakam Sprue, and then you'll draw 2 cards, reloading your hand, and then when Seifer hits, you can cast that Sazakam Sprue, and you'll discard another one from the card you just drew, and then draw 2 more. And uh, if you gift a fish, a tapped fish, Seifer gets stronger, so you can hit even harder. I think that this is a really fun deck. That's not necessarily. Um, it doesn't feel like your traditional Storm deck that you might build with Vivi or with any of these other mono red or blue red commanders. It feels a little bit different, and so I'm excited about that. Going on, I know this is getting kind of toward the end of the video where I'd like it to be. I want to talk about some of the artifacts and enchantments, and fortunately, I don't have too much. So, one that I really like is the Diviner's Wand. This says equipped creature has whenever you draw a card, this creature gets +1/+1 and gains flying until end of turn. It has an ability to pay for to draw a card. I don't think we'll be doing that too much. And then whenever Wizard comes into play, I can attach Diviner's Wand to it. We'll probably never end up doing that, but if we can pay to equip this onto Seifer and use any one of these abilities that we have to draw cards, we can demand answers. We'll discard a card to draw 2. That'll give Seifer +2/+2 and flying until end of turn, making him essentially unblockable. Not a lot of people run flying. So that's a 5/6 double strike, and then when he strikes twice, on the first strike, if you have something that's like, again, Laughing Mad, discard another card, you'll draw 2 more. Now Seifer's a 7 power. It gets out of control really, really fast. Another really great card, probably equally as good as I can't remember what other card I said was the best in here, but I think that Key to the City actually might be the best in this deck. It's 2 cost artifact that lets you tap to discard a card, and it says up to 1 target creature can't be blocked this turn. Already crazy. It makes our commander unblockable, guarantees us the trigger. It actually guarantees us 2 triggers. And not only that, it lets us discard a card, which is crazy because that's what this deck wants to do. We can discard, let's say, Haste Magic or Gimli's Fury, and then after Seifer can't be blocked, he hits once, we can just cast the Haste Magic, or we can just cast the Gimli's Fury. This card is so, so good and lets us put exactly what we want into the graveyard when we want to. And if we have extra mana, when it becomes tapped, we pay 2 and we get to draw off of it. Last thing I'll talk about is trying to get some protection on Seifer because he's going to be a lightning rod for removal. Mithril Coat is fantastic. I have Commander's Late in the sideboard because I know it's an expensive card. It's $35 right now, but Mithril Coat is still really, really good. We have Splitfoot Boots, and then Sword of Wealth and Power, which is kind of double. It gives him +2/+2, which is great, but protection from instants and sorceries. We really will never ever be blocking the Seifer, and so the only way our opponents can get rid of him is by targeting with instants or sorceries. And if they can't, that's really, really it essentially doubles as a boots. But then the second ability is whenever it deals combat damage to the player, create a treasure token, and this is going to trigger twice. And so whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell this turn, copy it. You may choose new targets. So that will trigger twice, meaning if we have a Gutter Snipe out there or our Caldera Pyromaw, and we end up casting, I don't know, a random card, Dual Strike or Laughing Mad, or even a removal spell. We're going to cast 3 removal spells because it's going to get copied 3 times. Caldera will trigger 4 times. Gutter Snipe will trigger 4 times. You're going to be dealing like 60 damage to the table just off 1 successful swing with the Sword of Wealth and Power. So, the last 2 talk about Double Vision, lets us double cast, and then Fiery Inscription is just like Gutter Snipe. So, really great card. This is the deck, though. Really appreciate you guys for tuning into this. Let me know if you end up building Seifer. I think he's going to be a ton of fun to play, and he has the potential to be really strong and to kind of surprise people out of nowhere. I know when building Final Fantasy, a lot of people want to build Cloud and want to build Yuna or Vivi, but I actually want to show you something. So if we go to EHREC and then we type in Seifer, I think he is one of the lowest. Yeah, 220 decks. No one is playing this commander, and I think it is a slept on card. So let me know if you end up building him, what your thoughts are, what you think I could add to this deck list, what you think I could take away, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Thanks. Have a good one.